Hello, one. Hello, all. Welcome to episode 11 of Will I Like It Interviews, or WILI Interviews for short. Today, I'm joined by a very, very good friend of the channel. But if you follow the other friend of the channel, Ryan Chataway, you'll know that we're entering the 24-hour movie marathon season. Usually it starts around March, where people start either planning and or recording. And this guy is just the plain old master of that series of videos. But we're going to find out more about him. There's more to this guest than just incredibly long marathon videos. I'm joined by Luke from Razorwire Reviews. Luke, say hello.
These streams go to 11. Hello, welcome. Good to be on the channel once again.
Yeah. It's in about a day or two. So I could lead it. Well, no, we'll start with you and YouTube, and because
hey, ask me anything. I'm an open book. Just no personal questions.
So what made you get started on YouTube?
All right. Well, we did a previous stream where we talked about wrestling, and so CP was like, "Well, we won't talk about wrestling in this stream." But
see, I wanted to dude love it here for you.
I'm gonna have to talk about the wrestling very briefly. 2011, I saw a lot of people on YouTube making wrestling-related reviews, and I'm a big wrestling fan. I used to wrestle myself, and so I thought I could do that. I buy wrestling DVDs, so it started out as a wrestling review channel, Razorwire Reviews, and it only took about 6 months before I started to realize that the wrestling YouTube community was quite competitive and catty, and kind of, I have more, belts than you or whatever, and it put me off big time, and I slowly started transitioning over into the movie community.
Yeah, because that's not catty at all.
I know. That's why I was laughing before I said that, but. But I guess it also kind of tied in with me getting back into movies in general in my life, I suppose, around that period, because always been big into movies, as a kid. I think most people are, but I really took it seriously. Like, I made my first film when I was 11. I was interested in making them as well as watching them. And then in the teens, I got into wrestling, and that kind of took over for a while. And then once that kind of ended for me, I got back into movies, and then the channel became a movie channel. And that's kind of where the channel started. And I realized I could talk about films, and I didn't know why I hadn't been doing it sooner, because I love doing it. And I think I've gotten better at doing it. I look back at my first movie reviews, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But, we all start somewhere. And that's kind of the genesis of the channel.
Right. So you also, I mean, you put, well, you have a bunch of series on your channel, these running series. I want to say that filmmaking is, it's not just reviews on your channel, even though your channel name is Razorwire Reviews. There's you have like filmmaking stuff. Like, am I wrong in assuming that?
No, I guess not. I mean, it started just as bog standard, just talking to a camera for 10 minutes, one take, that's it, done. And then I would add an intro and whatever, and that's still pretty much the same for my regular videos, but the passion I had for filmmaking when I grew up as a kid started to seep back into my video making, I suppose. And so I would do these series, and then maybe for a special episode, I'd do something a bit more cinematic, like a little skit or something. I don't know, just little bits would kind of creep in here and there. And I still feel like that's all it is, is just little special bits here and there when I can find the time to put them in and do all that kind of stuff. But it whets my appetite from where I'm not making real films or, just a short film. I can kind of weave it into what I do with reviewing films and talking about them.
Right. You so you kind of do things two different ways. You do your one shot where you're kind of vlogging to a degree, and then when you put your heart to it, you can edit better than 90% of the movie community. How do you feel? I mean, you've made fun of me and my YouTube style editing where I cut the breaths out. So as somebody who's kind of dipped back and forth between the ways that people edit. Are there preferences you have? Is there anything that you look down on for anybody else, or even look up to? Is there a preference? Is it just down to time?
What about time?
Well, if I had all the time in the world, I would edit every last thing I did and make it all pop and shiny and gorgeous. Where you certainly do that. Your editing skill is second to none. But you do have videos where it's just you talking to a camera. Is is it just a speed thing? Is it preference? Like, do you have to be in the right mood to pretty up videos, or is it help me out here?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in there, but
Yeah, yeah.
and thank you for the compliment, but I'll take it. Yeah, kind of a speed thing, I suppose, because you have people who do their set thing. They'll put out a video every week, and to me, it's like that's not enough. There's just so much more I want to talk about, and there isn't the time to put that much care and detail into every single thing. And I know we'll talk about a series I'm currently doing later on, but and that kind of ties into it. But yeah, it's about how much I care about it and how much I'm willing to put the time in, and kind of stay up a bit later every night and kind of put a bit more extra attention to it and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like editing style in the community, yeah, I poke fun at the way you do it, but you don't really do it in the way that I dislike, to be fair. It's the ones where it literally does sound like the person isn't breathing, and it's just the jump cut, jump cut, jump cut. And it's like there's no like natural rhythm to it. So that kind of puts me off. I mean, there's still people who I can watch if their personality holds up to it, but sometimes it does turn me off a bit if it feels a bit too presented in a phony kind of way, in the way I can describe it. And I do tend to gravitate towards the people who are a bit more natural and just kind of like having a conversation with someone, sitting in a room with someone.
Right.
And Zaran Isaac is the one I would look up to the most in that regard, and who has influenced the style of my videos for years. I think I found his channel in 2012. Just very informative, knows what he's talking about, can tell. And it's mostly all in one take, unless he's editing something out that happens. And it just feels, I like it when he uploads a 20-minute review and I can sit down and kind of spend time with it. That's kind of the mold that I like to follow. But yeah, but I mean, mostly it's just a matter of time where, a lot of the movie reviews I'll put out now, it's just a case of, cutting out bits where I messed up or whatever, tightening little gaps here and there, and then just bunging a few pictures in where appropriate. So that I only spend about half an hour on the editing because I need to move on to the next one and the next one. So.
Does it frustrate you at all when certain people maybe don't put the same effort in with editing and maybe get credit for being a good editor? And I'm not thinking of anybody in particular. It's just I mean, there's a couple of YouTubers that I could think of that have quite a few more subscribers than we do, like in the triple digits, or six digits, that I say that maybe don't deserve as much credit as they get. Like, I mean, if you're going to talk about their charisma or something, that's one thing, but the style in which that they're creating a video, sometimes I just don't see it. Maybe that's just me, or do you agree, disagree? Or
yeah, I see that, and it's definitely you get the little jealousy pangs coming in when you see things like that, and you think, well, I spent more time on my video and they get more attention and views, but at the same time, there's so many person who's making the video, they don't need to edit it that much for people to enjoy it more.
Wait, you said there's so many variables, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Out for a second. Okay.
Yeah, there's variables in like the way that people are going to enjoy other people's videos. So I could have the best editing possible, but if my personality doesn't appeal to someone when I'm talking, then it's null and void, basically. So I don't really let that thing bother me too much. I will say sometimes when and when I see a video and the person who's made it has said that it has taken them a really long time to put together, and I can tell that it kind of hasn't, that bothers me. But then I also need to think about the context of it, of the person, because I've been editing since I was 11, right? And then this person might not have. So it might have taken them that long, you know, and people might have just started editing for the first time, you know, a year ago. So what might come quicker to me might not be the same for others. So
I'll tell you what frustrates me is when people say editing, one way or another, people say editing is hard or easy. And I think it's all relative. I think it all depends on what you're using. Like
and what you do.
Yeah, right. If you're using iMovie, there's not much to it. You just kind of you let the app do the work for you.
Yeah.
I've been told that there's some things that I do in Premiere, Photoshop, After Effects that I take the long way, but I actually like, you know, seeing it through the process. Like apparently, there's some things where I could there's literally a button or a plugin for something, but I'd rather know a certain process, and you know, that's me making more work for myself. But I would never say that it's hard because, you know, it's something that you know I want to follow. It's just well, do you think editing is either hard or easy?
Again, like, it's all dependent. It really is all dependent. I mean, take a segment from one of my marathons, maybe like last year, where all you've got is a shot of me talking and a shot of someone else talking, and it's just put together. And it might just seem like I'm just cutting back and forth, but I have 40 minutes of footage, numerous takes. I've got to make the audio match and all these little things.
Some L cuts too, sure.
And it takes an incredibly long amount of time to put something like that together. To give you an idea, I guess, of how much I put into just a regular video, like just the fade in at the beginning of a video, I'll spend like 20 seconds just like is that too much? Is it, you know? So I don't just click fade in, fade out on the end of a video. I kind of wish I didn't care that much about those little details, because I'm sure that no one is bothered by that kind of thing. But that stuff's easy, you know, and then other things are hard. So it's all dependent, it really is.
So another thing I noticed is that when you do like voiceover work, it seems as if you're using like I would assume like a computer mic or a different mic, as opposed to your videos. Do you aren't that picky about the audio?
No.
That's interesting. That's really interesting to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just an internet video, you know. And while I do take pride in them, I don't really have the time, because again, there's a lot of things I want to talk about, a lot of things I want to, you know, I like to just film a video and then get it up that day, you know. And while I have done a few videos where I've used my proper microphone and synced up the audio, I don't know, I just feel like it's not worth it for me. But if it is something that's more properly produced, then it does warrant it and does warrant the further effort. But a lot of the voiceover work I do is with the, you know, video editing jobs that I get. So that kind of is a lot more important than something I do as a hobby on YouTube.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So some of the stuff that you do on your channel, you've been doing the Epic Film Challenge. Is that what it's called? EFC? Yeah. For over I want to say 2 years. Am I wrong with that?
Well, the current one is the Epic Film Challenge 2. And it's been going since 2013. So that's 3 years.
Almost 4, yeah.
But the thing with that one is it started in 2013, and between 2013 and 2016, there was about 11 videos. You know, so really, I'd say it's been going full bore for about a year or so, I think.
Okay, and explain to my viewers what that is.
Well, just to give you the previous one, the original Epic Film Challenge was in 2011, and that was kind of the beginning of me doing movie reviews, I guess. And so if you do go back and watch those, they're dog shit. They're terrible, you know. And they were never meant to be anything more than just logging the process. It's mainly just me and my fiance just talking about the film we just watched. And I was in work one day, and I just thought, you know, I need to watch more films. I want to get back into it. So I thought, let's challenge myself to watch a film every day for a year. And I thought, hang on, why don't I make a video for all of those? And a lot of those videos are worthless. They're just kind of logging the time and just kind of a 1 minute nothing. But I made 366 videos, so it was kind of a nice little achievement. and I think maybe 4 of those videos had a bit of like more editing in them as well.
Okay.
Kind of did some special things in them, but and that was kind of playing around with if I could do more than just a normal video. So the Epic Film Challenge 2 was to go even bigger and to review every film in the book 1,001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, which I think a lot of film fans know about or own in our cases.
Yeah, I have an older version. I have the 5th edition, which I guess, yeah, I don't even think Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was out when my version was released. So
yeah, this is the 2012 edition, so it covers everything up to 2011. So, and that's the one I've been going off since 2013. So, I mean, I could have just kept updating every year, but I want to stick to the one that I started it with. I did it out that way. And the idea behind that was just to continue broadening my horizons. And when I started my channel in 2011, that was when I started to dip my toes into films I wouldn't have ordinarily watched, I think. And that has just expanded over the years to the point now where I'm watching all sorts of shit. And the book pushes me to do that.
Hold that thought. So your film knowledge is self-taught?
Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, there's
like you have no sort of like schooling as far as film is concerned.
No, yeah, I do. I did 3 years in college, TV and film production, but there wasn't much of film study really.
Really?
And I suppose I did take media studies in school. In the UK, when you hit your second to last year, you get to choose a couple of subjects moving forward, and I chose media studies. And so we'd watch Citizen Kane and things like that. But
that's day one, I think. I think that was day one for me.
Yeah. But I've never really paid too much attention to that kind of stuff. I just wanted to make things, and the same when I got to college, I feel like those college days were wasted, to be honest, because that was when the wrestling thing started for me, and my head was elsewhere. And so I would just let things slide. I'd want to be behind the camera, and I'd end up doing sound. So yeah, I really regret those days, but most of the knowledge I have about films is literally just the deep kind of rabbit hole late nights on the internet, and the DVDs we have, all the commentaries and documentaries and stuff.
It's both impressive and angers me that you taught yourself, when there's so many people out there that just they're going off their ass. A lot of people on YouTube they have no schooling. They just say whatever the hell they want. And I mean, I know there's certain things that are wrong, but and here you are teaching yourself. It's just so admirable.
I think it's all right though. I mean, there's a place for that too, for people who just want to enjoy films and talk about them. But I suppose it's when they maybe use words or use terms that they're not familiar with, and they try to sound like they know more than they do, or something like that. Then that's when it starts to get into a little bit of a iffy water. But
it's one thing to say, hey, I enjoy this for blank, but it's when you start saying, well, this, technically speaking, this is this, and I don't like the way the sound was. Well, how do you know? What are you talking about? Like, honestly, I'm sorry. I mean, so, go ahead.
No, to kind of piggyback on that, like when I do a review, I'll get frustrated sometimes, so I don't know how to express what I want to say about it, and it's like, if I don't believe what I'm saying, I'm not going to try and sound like I know more than I do. I'll say, look, I don't know why this appeals to me so much, but I just like this part or whatever.
Sure.
And so I almost feel like I'm not even a reviewer, because I feel like it's my technique in reviewing films is quite sloppy, but I like to just keep it as real as possible and just give my thoughts. And sometimes I like to kind of research more than others. Like I did one of the Epic Film Challenge reviews. I went really deep, listened to this audio commentary, and I had this whole story, and it was great. Other films, I just feel like that one's not really worth the research, and so I'll slap together a video that's not really that interesting, but just got to take it as it comes and kind of assess each film by their own merits, in my eyes, and then that's how I do it.
Yeah, I guess on a personal level. I'm just flabbergasted. Luke is kind of been taking me on a silent film journey, and here I am, technically speaking, with a bit more of an education, but you're the one who's showing me around. It's just
or dragged you around.
yeah. by my arm while the rest of my body's just limp behind me. No, I don't wanna. But yeah, yeah, incredibly admirable. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were talking about Epic Film Challenge. I apologize.
I can't think of anything else I was really saying about it other than it was, you know, it's a nice way to push yourself into watching something you'd never watch. To give you an example, there's this film from, I want to say, an Iranian film from the 90s called Gabba. And just looking at the image, I just thought, I'm just not interested in that. But I thought, you know, I'm going to watch it. So I dug it out and I watched it. And it wasn't my favorite film, but I was really impressed afterwards. You know, I was like, well, that was something different that I've never seen before. And while it wasn't perfect, you know, that's kind of something that I would have never sought out before. And so while I may disagree with some of the additions in the book, I quite like some of the ones that are in there that are really obscure and, you know, they're clearly there for a reason.
And so I guess you kind of touched on it. Are there any movies that you went into the Epic Film Challenge where you were either guarded or didn't want to see it, and you know came out the other end and said, "Oh my God, this is incredible," and vice versa? Did you go into something thinking, "Oh, Citizen Kane, this is gonna be awesome," and out the other end you're like, "Oh well." Yeah.
I can't think off the top of my head really any real surprises. It usually seems to follow what my initial gut feeling is. I mean,
Boy.
a small no, a kind of a small surprise would be something like Clueless, which I still think should not be in the book. You know, I don't get the reasoning behind it, but I definitely judged the book by its cover there and looked at the poster and thought that just looks like three really annoying characters. And I'm really going to find this a hard slog, but I really enjoyed it. It was a really likable film, but a film you must see before you die, not quite. And that's what I do with the videos at the end. I'll say, is it a film you must see before you die? And usually it kind of sparks some debate in the comments about, you know, whether I should say yes or no, but it's just a bit of fun really to kind of judge the book by the proclamation on the cover. You know, I kind of like to challenge it and see how I feel about it. And there's always the chance that I might feel differently later on, but I like to kind of stick to my kind of initial reaction. But yeah, I can't think of many that really surprised me in a big way or really disappointed me in a big way either. But I'd have to kind of, again, I've done over 150 of them at this point, so there's quite a few that I've forgotten about already. But
so we kind of talked about it earlier, and it's certainly found in so one of the movies that you feel should be in the book is The Great Dictator, which if I'm not mistaken, you did a review and you kind of presumed it was in the book, right?
Yeah.
So there's technically a Great Dictator review that is kind of like a bonus feature, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the story behind that was I just assumed that it was in there. Like, there's no way The Great Dictator, the Charlie Chaplin classic, is not in the book. So we watched it, me and my fiance, because she joins me on quite a few of them. I tried to get her involved as much as possible. Obviously, there's some she's not going to sit through. Like, she's not going to go to the cinema with me to see a 6.5 hour long Napoleon. But but I'm really impressed with the film she has watched, to be fair. So we watched The Great Dictator, loved it, did the review. It was like a 20-minute review or something. And, and I think I actually uploaded it. And then I was just flicking through the book to get the cast listing to put into the video description.
I've seen this video, so I mean, yeah, you definitely uploaded it, yeah.
And I was like, what? Wait, 1939, what the fuck? Where the fuck is this? Was it released earlier in another country? And then I just thought, it's not in there. It's not fucking in there. Why is it not in there? And I looked it up, and there's lists online that compile all the films that have been included, because every year they update it, and they'll put films in, they'll bump films off. To kind of, you know, you got to kind of sell it with a new cover, you know, like all The Revenant or whatever. And it has never been in the book, ever. And so anytime I see a film like Clueless, I'm just like, So what I did was I just filmed this massive rant, tagged it on the beginning of that fake review, and that started a new series, the Epic Film Challenge 2.5, films you really should see before you die, which I was planning on doing after the fact, you know, to kind of weigh in on what I think should be included. But for now, that's the lone video, because it just, you know, blew my mind that it wasn't there.
So with that being said, some movies that you've noticed that aren't in the book that you would probably say, this really needs to, there needs to be a second chance, or you know
Right.
the Razorwire edition of 1001 movies. Do you have a couple that you would say, it's just a shame that these aren't in? I mean, other than The Great Dictator, obviously.
Well, I think the two that really stood out to me were two from, I think, the same year. When I first got the book, I thought, well, they've got to be in it, because I was looking at the latest ones. Again, it goes up to 2011, so I had films like Bridesmaids, right? I was thinking, okay, so two of my favorite films of all time should be there. And I look at 2004, and there's no Shaun of the Dead, and there's no Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And that's where I just kind of like, really? And
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I love those films so much, but I wouldn't kind of. Well, maybe with Eternal Sunshine, I'd probably put a bit of a case behind it. But
Yeah.
it wouldn't have bothered me so much if there were other films in the book that I feel aren't really near the kind of special quality that those two films reach. So that's definitely two that really stand out, and both from the same year.
Well, I don't know if you know this. Well, the last time I was in a Barnes and Noble, or the last time I was actually, looking around the movie book section, they actually started doing categories. So it was like 500 horror movies you need to see before you die, 500 action movies you need to see before
Yeah.
you die. So obviously, it might even be, it's either 500 or 1,000. So they're kind of splitting off and going by category. How do you feel about that? And is that something you ever think that maybe you'll approach?
Definitely not in a video series sense. I think I got enough on my plate as it is, but I think it's cool. I think it kind of, a horror fan, because there's a lot of people in the YouTube community, movie community, who are big horror fans, and that's all they love, and that's cool. So that would be much more catered towards them, because they can pick up a book like this and they can scroll to the horror section, and there's like about 80, 90 movies, and it's kind of still a lot to go through, but it's not quite everything that they're looking for. So I think that's pretty cool, and certainly opens up the spectrum a little bit for films that wouldn't necessarily make the cut. Though again, I'm not completely on board with the cut as it presently stands, but you know what I mean. And I actually have tried to find out the editor of this, Stephen J. Schneider. I've tried to find him online. I was almost thinking about emailing him if I could find a contact, just to pick his brain a little bit about the, just the whole process. I'm interested actually in if it is him who makes all the decisions, if there's a group of people. Like, I'd like to know, but it seems like quite an elusive figure, and I can't find much online.
So I have a two-part. I want to make sure I remember the second part. So what were your favorite types of films before you really started, giving yourself this education that I call? What was your favorite type of film? Action, horror, drama, romance?
Well, I mean, most kids, I think, grow up interested in the big loud movies of their time, and so the ones that I gravitated towards. Well, I mean, I loved all the Disney films; those were a real staple of my childhood. Beauty and the Beast was the first. One of my earliest memories was going to see that in the cinema, but I definitely was more of a kind of Star Wars, Back to the Future, and then at a much younger age than I should have, films like Aliens, Predator. Things like that, and so more of the kind of adult action films. So yeah, just kind of flights of fancy, things that weren't really in the realms of reality, where films can just take you somewhere that you wouldn't see, like a Star Wars or Back to the Future. There's different kinds, like the action style, the fantasy, sci-fi,
right,
and yeah, that kind of thing, and animated films as well were a big one.
And so, going on only my perception, I would say that, if anybody asked me, I would say that you're one of, if not the biggest silent film fan that I know. How did that come from this? How did that start? And are silent films your favorite type of films now?
Silent films are my favorite thing in the world when I'm in the mood to watch them. But they're this, yeah. If I had to choose, they get put to one side for things like Star Wars and whatnot. But yeah, it's a weird thing that I never really expected because again, I've been broadening my horizons a little bit, and I think it was Metropolis, and it was one of those random ones where I just remember hearing about that film so much over the years. I think I had the special edition of Star Wars on VHS when it came out in '97 at the beginning. I could swear that there's some talk about influences, and Kurosawa and Metropolis, because the robot in that film is very similar to C-3PO. And so I'd always been conscious of this old sci-fi film called Metropolis. So I heard of a good Blu-ray release of it, bought it, blind bought it, watched it, and it just kind of knocked my socks off. But it's quite a slog of a film, as great as it is. And so it wasn't like, oh, I got to watch more now. It was like, well, that was great, but it's going to be testing my patience to kind of go into these more. So I left it. And then it was my third 24-hour movie marathon on a whim. Went on Netflix, and there was all these Buster Keaton films. And I kind of vaguely known of that guy, the silent comedian. So we watched one of his films, and I just loved it. I thought, wow, that makes me laugh more than modern comedies. And not only that, there's just some incredible stunts in there that just took my breath away. And that was really what happened. And I'll always say that Metropolis kind of opened the door to silent films, and Buster Keaton kind of drop kicked me through it. That was kind of the impetus for that. And then it just grew, then just snowballed, and I just started devouring all these different types, from romances to horror, silent films, comedies, documentaries, fantasy, all different genres and different types. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of it now.
So how much, when you have movie discussions with me and you mention Keaton, how much does it bother you that every single time I think you're talking about Michael?
Not as much as you might think, considering Michael Keaton is my favorite actor of all time.
That's so weird too.
Yeah, it is. It's really strange, and I think that's the reason he's called Michael Keaton, is that his family were a big fan of Buster Keaton.
Oh, so it's a stage name?
Oh yeah, no, Michael Keaton's real name is Michael Douglas, so you can understand why.
Oh wow!
He had to change his name. Yeah.
Fun little fact.
Hmm.
So with again going back to your self-taught ways, one of the most popular, if not the most popular. No, actually, he's not, because Jeremy Jahns is higher. Chris Stuckman wrote a book, 50 movies you need to see in the 21st century.
Yeah, I heard about
that. How does that make you feel? And what's, I mean, I'll say that it kind of freaks me out a little bit that a lot of things seem to be in the present, now, the best thing in the last 5 years, the best blank. Is it odd to kind of just dismiss the 20th century as far as movies are concerned?
I wonder if it's marketability, and I don't know how that came about, whether it was just his kind of passion project and whatever, and obviously he has the clout to kind of make that thing happen, or whether it was, he was approached, to do this and make it about modern films, and so it's a lot easier to sell. I don't know. I don't really see the problem in it. I know a lot of people were kind of a bit down on it, like, who is he to say, but I mean, it's all opinions, so if you want to do it, if you want to sit down and write a book about films, then go ahead and do it, and people can read it or they can not read it. It's not something I'm not interested in checking out myself, but all the power to him. I don't really, I definitely do think that more people should be interested in the past, because I kind of find that, see, I'm one of those people who doesn't really mind it when ideas are reused and kind of retooled for different means. I don't get all uppity about, oh, it was just like that film. I mean, if it's told through a different lens, then I'm all for it. But at the same time, I find it more impressive when you go so far back that those influences aren't really there. And so it's definitely not someone taking an idea from somewhere. It's the first of something, and that kind of goes back to the silent era more than anything. But the further back it is, I find it a bit more interesting in terms of originality and technique as well. Considering how these days you can just do anything. You can just throw millions at it and just whatever you want, anything you want, anything. Whereas back then it's like, well, we have to put it in front of the camera. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, it's easily. It's a lot easier to do things now than back then. So there's a certain appreciation for like, especially like when you're kind of guiding me through the silent stuff. I find myself in so many different scenes. Like when we're watching Metropolis, the thing that goes on in the back of my head more than anything is, how are they able to do this type of shot with 1920s technology? I mean, it's easy to do stuff like that now, but it's kind of fun to figure out or wonder about how they were doing things back then.
Yeah. There's a great scene in Napoleon, which just got a big restoration last year. 1927 film, this huge 6-hour long epic about Napoleon Bonaparte. And there's this phenomenal sequence where he's on a ship in the middle of the sea, and he's
nothing. 6 hours. You can't do anything short, can you?
It's funny. I went to see it in the cinema, and so there was like 4 breaks, right?
Oh.
And after the first interval, like an hour and 50 minutes of the film, this old chap in the back goes, "Well, very good, but it's a bit long, isn't it? I'm going to go." I was like, dude, you knew what you were signing up for. Like, it's all over the screen, 6 hours long. But this great scene where Napoleon's on this boat and there's this storm, and so it's a miniature, and you see the ship going up and down like that, and it cuts to this political debate where everyone's going mental and stuff like that, and there's a storm going on politically. Okay. And they've got this huge room full of like hundreds of people, and the camera's on like this swing that goes like that, up and down, and it's this incredible like sweeping thing that goes along with the motion of the ship on the sea. And that just like blew me away, and obviously they must have just had to build a massive swing and just, whatever. So it's always cool to see those films where you have those little kind of surprises and things you wouldn't see now. The film that won the first Oscar, Wings, in 1928, is a World War I film, and so the main characters are fighter pilots. So they trained the actors to fly the planes, and they just put a camera on the front of the plane. So you're seeing this plane flipping through the air. In one shot they're like pretending to be passed out while still flying, and it's just nuts. Like, holy shit. I mean, you can't use a stuntman because the camera's right there on the front of the plane. Yeah. So they had to train the actors to do it. Balls of steel.
Yeah. There's a certain appreciation for all that stuff. So Brian Lomax jumped in. He said he can't stick around. He says, "Luke, you're the bomb," but he'll definitely be watching this later.
Cool.
13th Wolfman. Michael Keaton is named after Diane Keaton, who took her name from Buster Keaton.
Well, there you go. Then that's the connection. I must have got the story mixed up, but I still like the thread there. There's still something I can hold on to.
There's still a connection. Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So you kind of skated around it. Stuckman, he's been at the center of some stuff because of his opinion, whether it be his book or there was some script that he wanted to he rewrote online or whatever. So as much as there's I mean, you and I talking right now is part of the pros of YouTube. The community is incredible, but some of the cons are people just don't like certain opinions. There's a bit of turmoil.
Yeah.
Have you had any sort of skate or run in with the negative aspect, or was there a massive disagreement with an opinion of yours, or over the course of your channel life, has there been negative stuff that you either don't understand or
Well, with movie opinions, people can get very hot-headed,
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand that. I'll certainly get a little hot under the collar when someone starts picking on something that I really enjoy. But
for the record, Brian's right. Just before you keep going,
he's always right, yeah. But at the end of the day, I always think this. It's like they're just movies, they're just movies. Just because you don't like it, it doesn't mean I can't like it. It doesn't. Someone else's opinion doesn't negate it, unless you're dealing with something highly moral. Where like someone who was in the film who's a murderer or something. When it comes down to just subjectivity of enjoying that film, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And yeah, I remember that thing was stuck when he rewrote a scene from Batman v Superman, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, you're right. Yes.
And people hounded him for it, and it's like it's free speech. Why can't he just have a little fun and say, hey, look at this? I don't know how he worded it when he posted it, whether he said they should have done this or what a bunch of dicks.
I
I don't
did it
know.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, at the end of it, I just think they're just movie opinions, and I've come under fire a few times, and it's usually when I'll talk about something that is outside of the film a little, whether it's racism in the film or other things. Like I talked about Woody Allen, Watch
Mhm.
Manhattan for the Epic Film Challenge, and I thought it was a great film. I really enjoyed it. There was bits of it I didn't like, but I really liked it. And I'd always avoided Woody Allen's kind of scandal story stuff. I'll just leave it. And in the film, he has a relationship with a younger girl, in fact, who's supposed to be 16 in the movie, and I think in real life the girl was 17. And there's a scene, and the whole film they're together. And you're getting a bit nervous now me talking about it, but
Life imitating art. Well, listen, me being nervous. No, you're on my channel.
yeah, okay.
This is
Um,
nothing compared to what I get in trouble for.
Now, I was fine with it as a story. There are people who, older, younger, that kind of thing. But towards the end, they share a kiss, and there are tongues involved. And I thought there's no need for that. That the film didn't need that. The relationship didn't need that. We can assume they do that off screen. So I thought I need to look into this. So I looked into it, and I was pretty horrified by what I found, and I the two. And
Mm.
that's something that I kind of wrestle with a lot is can you separate the art from the artist? And it's a tricky one. I still don't know all the answers to it, but that definitely kind of colored my review more than talking about the film. And I wish it didn't. And then I got a bit of negative stuff over that, I guess. So either people agreeing or people disagreeing that you should just watch it for the film or whatever, or you don't know all the facts. And that's
Right.
true. But I've read his daughter's statement, and regardless, that's a pretty yeah. So I won't go into it, but that's something that
Well,
is usually the source of any negativity I get as far as my opinions on films is when I talk about things like that.
um, well, what's odd about that is he made Manhattan in the 70s, and then kind of like what I just referred to, life imitating art. He he ends up, you know, marrying, getting with a woman, girl who's quite younger than him. I think
which
she was a
which only lends more kind of
right.
weight
So
to everything else.
right. So like what you're saying, separate the art from the artist. But what about in cases where uh, you find out more about that it's not so much art, it's more the artist giving you a slight view into his psyche. Does that change uh, anything about the piece that's 30 years old?
I think it kind of does, and I also read that the actress in the film who he kissed, he kind of made moves on her as soon as she hit
Oh,
18, and he asked her to go to Paris with him, and she was like, "Well, no." And so then that he had his designs on her, and was that kiss really artistic intentions, or was it just I want to get off with this young girl? And that's where it really starts to get me a little bit
right,
uncomfortable. But
right.
so yeah, it's usually stuff like that. There was a terrible film in the book that I watched, and I absolutely fucking hated it. I thought it was a complete waste of space, and I held no bones about it. And a lot of people got annoyed about me, saying that my brain is not ready for art yet, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous the paragraphs I was getting, and I was trying to defend it, but like some people just they really want to stick to their guns and have an issue with it. But like I say, they're just movies.
Do you think that there's some things in movies that just don't need to be portrayed?
Yes, I feel fairly strongly about nudity and sex scenes in films. I don't think they shouldn't be in them, but there are so many cases where it is just there for the titillation, and I think it's
Mhm.
kind of seedy. And
Yeah.
as much as I can sit there and look at it as a male and go, well, I like what I'm seeing.
Oh,
It,
sure.
it
16-year-old me definitely needs that in film. That was the only way I got my rocks off, was watching, you know, risque movies as a 16-year-old boy.
right.
It's just
I just watched Passengers, and I remember there was talk from Jennifer Lawrence about the sex scene that she did in the film, and how she was so nervous she got drunk and stuff. And you see a scene of them kind of in bed kissing, you know, and they're, you know, shirtless, whatever. Okay, fine. Later on in the film, we get a shot of her completely naked, just kind of straddled on him, and it was like a 2-second shot. And I thought, well, did that really need to be there? We understand that they're having sex, like,
right.
you know. So yeah, yeah, there are certain things I think that I still scratch my head. Like, what's the conversation there when the director's like, right, so we're going to need you to, you know, take that off, and
Right, exactly. For Von Trier's Nymphomaniac, Shia LaBeouf actually had sex with the actress,
okay,
and like that, like I don't understand. Like,
that's a bit odd.
yeah, I mean,
It's not acting at that point, is it? You're not
right,
doing your job. You're not doing
right.
your job.
It's method. Like, it's strange. I guess, stuff like sex and nudity is it's this weird thing where it's just like, well, why? Like, yeah. And on the flip side, there's that story about how DiCaprio actually cut his hand on the glass in Django Unchained, and they actually used that scene, like that actually happened, and it made it better. But I don't think I really don't think certain things like sex and nudity really provide much. Why can't they just imply, like, or show a train going into a tunnel, a la Hitchcock?
Well, a really good example of that is Blue is the Warmest Color. Have you seen that?
No, no,
Right.
that's got a Criterion, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I love the film. Like, it was just a stunning film. Like, really hit me as far as the emotions of the story, and seeing this relationship between these two women. And it has these I think there's three incredibly graphic sex scenes, and they do serve a purpose in that they show the kind of the passion of the beginning of a relationship, the intimacy of a relationship that's kind of, you know, at a certain point. So it had a reason to be there, but I mean, they're so long, and I feel like it hurts the film because it became the big talking point about the film. Everyone was talking about it, and the actresses themselves said they were kind of uncomfortable with it, and that's when it's like, oh man. So it's tricky.
With all that being said, do you think that Hollywood and actors and actresses and filmmakers that make film for Hollywood and mass audiences, do you think they're a little hypocritical in looking down on porn?
No, I think it's a bit different. I don't
Really?
know. Yeah, I mean, nudity and full bore penetration is a little bit different.
Well, I'm not trying. Listen, I'm not trying to stand here and say porn is art too. I'm not trying to say that.
Well, they have their own awards, right?
Right. So a comedian joked about that. Really funny.
Yeah.
So in film school, I'll never forget. Somebody brought up a sex, because they were talking about a sex scene, and he brought up, well, what's the difference between porn and this, and the teacher just wouldn't have the conversation because he was talking about porn, and she said porn isn't anything. Porn's not art, and it's just, well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, if you're a drama that's, it's a movie about a missing child, what does sex add to the story?
Mm. And I mean, I like that it is part of stories and films, but there's just better ways of doing it than you sometimes see. And I think that it kind of it can be a bit annoying when you want to watch a film with certain people.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
there was it wasn't really a great film, but it was some Ben Stiller movie, and it was decent. I'd seen it before, and my fiance wanted to watch it with her mother, and I was like, no, we can't watch it because there's a really extreme sex scene at the. And again, it's not ridiculous, but it's proper, like, uncomfortable level, not watch with a family kind of thing. Whereas the rest of the film isn't. So
Right.
it's one of those things as well, where it's like, well, it would be better if they hadn't included that.
Right. At least with again, I feel like I'm this porn defender, but at least with porn, what you're getting. it's not like you throw a porn in and then suddenly there's this documentary somewhere in the middle. It's just sex, whether or not there's a really bad plot somewhere in there, that that's just to accelerate the sex. But it's kind of upside down. If you're watching like I said, if you're watching a story about some a missing child and the chase, a sex scene really has, like, what does that have to, what is that adding to the characters? Like I just don't and it's like you said, that there's moments where it's just, you can't watch that stuff in front of people, and it just makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, it depends on the person and how how they feel about it. Whether they, because there's people who are very open with their sex lives and will talk about it with their friends and beyond, and there are people who like to keep that kind of stuff private, and so there's different tastes to it. But I think that most adults know what other adults get up to when they're in a relationship, and you don't really need to have that painted so um, clearly in front of you at times, I think.
Well, how do you feel about Hollywood, or at least Hollywood films, having a bit of a liberal agenda to them?
I mean, that means nothing to me. Liberal, I mean, is that in terms of
Uh,
the politics of America,
yeah,
or are you talking
social
more about
view.
the
Yeah.
social view? Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any knowledge on that, to be honest.
Okay.
Well,
That's
you explain to me what you would mean by that.
well. I just recently watched The Love Witch. I don't know if you've heard of it, if you've seen it.
No.
Um, it's a film that's modeled after 60s Technicolor type B movie schlock type stuff,
Okay.
and it's about a woman who's she's a Wiccan. She's a part of a cult of, no, not a cult. They're witches, and she casts spells for men to fall in love with her. But the thing is, she's got this very you know outdated view on men, that she all she needs to make a man happy is to make sure he has a nice warm meal when he gets home. Yeah, and as long as you're faithful to your man, he'll love you forever. And it's something like that. And the thing of it is, she keeps these guys fall for her, but she gets turned off by how into her she is, and she you know gets rid of them.
Okay.
And it's not really a horror, so to speak, but uh I don't well, it's the same thing as Get Out. Get Out is this horror disguised as a social message about race.
Mm.
And I feel like why does it have to be so overt? I guess, like, why can't a film be good for being good? Why does it have to be, oh, The Love Witch, the big thing about The Love Witch, feminist, great movie for feminism. So same thing with Raw. It's a movie that's about to come out, and apparently it's this big metaphor for um veganism. Like, there's all these movies that have these I don't want to say agenda, but it seems like something like, again, a movie that 30 years ago would have been a metaphor for something. Like Alien is a giant metaphor for sex. I mean, there's so many sexual metaphors in there, but at its heart, it's a sci-fi thriller.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, on that kind of note, I mean, there's a lot of that going on these days, especially with the what's the term they use? The culture today, the way that they overreact to anything.
Social justice warrior.
No, outrage culture. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Find anything to be outraged about. The new Beauty and the Beast film has a character
Oh,
who is
right.
alluded to be gay, and I watched the film, and yeah, there's you can definitely tell that he's that he's gay, but it's not thrown in your face that much. It's just part of the character. But then it becomes this big thing, and I feel like it shouldn't be, like that. It's not what the film's about. It's just that it's in
Right.
there. And if it was put in there specifically for PR reasons, then I don't agree with it. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. And that, it can go either way. the new Star Trek, they made the character of Sulu gay. And George Takei said, please don't do this. I'm gay, but the character isn't, you know. This isn't what you should be doing. And he implored the screenwriters not to do it for his sake, but they did it anyway, you know. That I don't quite agree with, you know. I can understand the viewpoint in that sense. Doing it for the sake of doing it is one thing. And then, I mean, I know you're talking about messages in films, but that's kind of a...
Well, yeah, no, you're right. I guess I was trying to tiptoe around it so much. It's I mean, it's like you said, there's tons of movies out there. There's gay characters, feminist characters. They're out there. You just have to go find them. I don't think you need to assemble a movie around a certain type of thing.
No.
Like the big deal about Rey. She's not the first female, you know, protagonist. Like,
no.
I just don't get. Take a shot, by the way. We just made a Star Wars reference. But when there's this conscious effort made to support something, like there was a thing about Beauty and the Beast. Listen, one way or another, apparently there was a theater that closed, that didn't have it because of the gay character. That's silly. But on the flip side, you had all these people last year going and just buying tickets to the female Ghostbusters and not even going to see the movie. They just wanted to show their support.
Right.
And like that can't be good for the art of filmmaking, can it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
Listen, you don't have to answer this. I realize that we're talking about something that has nothing to do with neither of us.
Well, here's something. I just looked it up because I wanted to get it right. And it's kind of where I kind of sit on it a little bit. But I'm quoting here. I'm quoting Morgan Freeman about Black History Month.
Okay.
They ask him about it, and he says, ridiculous. And they say, why? And he says, well, you're going to relegate my history to a month, right? And he's like, what do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? You know, what's Jewish History Month? You know, he's like, I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history. And that's how I feel, is when it starts getting put into a box like that, you know. When Moonlight won Best Picture, and people were like, oh, well, and I saw it. I saw it online.
Wait, you mean La La Land?
There was a last minute run-in at the end of the Oscars.
It's Moonlight. What's Moonlight doing here?
Stone Cold came out with a steel chair and smacked Damien Chazelle around the head. Beers were thrown around, and Moonlight won Best Picture. But people were saying, I saw it on Facebook, people saying, well, they just did it because, you know, it's a black film. And it's like, I saw it. It's a great film, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that there's a gay character in it. It's got nothing to do with the fact that there's black characters in it. It was just a good drama. And, you know, fair enough, it won Best Picture. I'm certainly behind that because I thought it was a great film. And it bothers me when people start, well, I guess you can debate whatever you want, but again, it goes back to that thing, they're just movies, you know, they're entertainment. They're entertainment, you know, enjoy it for the story, and you look deeper on the themes and things, but I don't know. Yeah, it frustrates me. It frustrates me sometimes.
Yeah, no, tell me about it. Jason Hamilton says, I think way too many movies nowadays have hidden agendas to them. They just can't make great film for the sake of film anymore. There's a difference in one character having a trait such as Beauty and the Beast, and a difference between making the whole film about the theme, aka Get Out, was clearly trying to push the racism point. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to. Like, films should be like I said. I'll always, if you want to talk about, you know, stuff like that, Alien is perfect. It's a sci-fi, it's a thriller, it's a horror, but under the layer there's this sex. It's the secondary thing. It's about sex. It's rape. There's constant references there. But if you don't look too deep, you could still watch it as, you know, it's an alien chasing a bunch of people around, killing people.
The film doesn't live or die by that.
Right.
It lives or dies by the way that it's made, the characters, you know, and just how you enjoy it as a story. And if you do want to look deeper, then you can find those things. I say, I'm not saying that you shouldn't look deeper for those things, but like, I also think that there are these issues like racism where people will say this film has an agenda, and I feel like you can look at any film and kind of pick out an agenda that might not have been the intention. It could have been, but it might not have been as well. And in this day and age, when people can write a blog about something and it can just go to the moon, you know, because it's a hot topic, and then suddenly that becomes the identity of the film. Is that, oh, it's that film with the gay character in it that they try to shoehorn in, whatever.
Right.
And sometimes, sometimes the film isn't as good as that, but sometimes the film is better than something like that.
Sure.
It kind of drags it down.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll tiptoe away from the hot topic here.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So over the course of time, as you were covering movies, do you have a couple of movies that are favorites that perhaps you wouldn't have watched otherwise?
Oh yeah, we're interviewing me again.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'd like to discuss films. Obviously, films that. I mean, probably the silent ones again. I hate to bring it back to that because I know so many people are interested in them. But Sunrise is a film, and it didn't win Best Picture, but it won Best Artistic Picture at the first Oscars. So there was 2 films that won Best Picture, kind of, but it was the Best Artistic Picture of the year, and it made me cry. Like it just hit me with so many emotions. It filled me with happiness. It made me sad. It made me reflect on things, and I just thought, how the hell could a film that old with no dialogue do that to me? That was a revelation. And there's another silent film that's done that as well, but those ones stick out. And to kind of go back to the beginning of me getting into films other than the blockbusters that we all watch was Seven Samurai, and that's the one that truly kind of opened my mind to everything. And it was just an amazing experience to watch that film for the first time. And I mainly watched it because of my dad, because he kind of is a big kind of Japan fan. He went there a few times in his earlier years. He kind of trained in ninjutsu and got a few black belts, and loved all the samurai movies and stuff. And so I kind of watched it as this is something I can talk to with my dad about. So I watched Seven Samurai, and long movie, and I watched it at like 2 a.m. And when you're watching a film and you kind of nod off, and it's like, oh, okay, I think I've missed either 2 seconds or 2 minutes, and you just keep rolling through it. I loved it so much that every time I'd nod off, I would rewind back like 30 seconds before the point left, just to make sure I got everything. So I was up till 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was just like, that was incredible. Now I need to see more of that stuff, and that is in my top 3 favorite films of all time, and for me is the best film I've ever seen. So that's probably one. Yeah, it's quite all right. Yeah, it's decent. Sadly, CP didn't enjoy it as much as I did, but
sadly, I it's a black and white film. It's harder for me to get into. That was the first film that Luke got me watching with him, but easily it's the entry. I don't know, the gateway drug, so to speak. I've had a good time having a bit of school with Luke.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of expecting you to react that way, because I mean, I just like you said to me, you said like anything pre-1973, I'm a bit, the pacing, and I knew that Seven Samurai was not an incredibly paced film in terms of snappiness. So I was surprised that you sat through it, and it was a cool experience to watch it with you.
No, absolutely. If I have somebody to shoot some of my ADD quirks off of, like when there's a lull, I need something to do, and
yeah.
It's good. I just want to Jason Hamilton. The only thing sexual I see about Alien is the mouth in the mouth. The second mouth looks like a penis, and the face hugger is clearly a vagina. Dude, you need anything H.R. Giger designed has some sort of penis annotation to it.
Well, you go inside that ship with all the eggs, and the opening that they walk through is very vaginal. So it's like going into the womb,
Right,
and
right.
And the thing going through the mouth, that's very rape oriented as well. There's a
the
lot
magazine scene. Sure, that's
that too. Yeah.
Jason, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, Google sex in Alien, or what is it? They literally have classes about the sexual undertones, or I would call them overtones, in Alien. But yeah, there's tons to get there.
Just make sure you add in Alien after the sex when you go on Google. That's
yeah.
Depending on who's around at the time.
Pop up. Channel Donstar says the entrance to the derelict ship is also vagina looking. Jason says, I'll have to go back and see that. And they both shared a chuckle. Okay, so we've stayed clear of it for long enough. The thing that really turned me onto your channel is the 24-hour movie marathon, which Ryan Chataway of channel Ryan Chataway created. What got you into it? How and why did you decide to have such a cinematic approach to it? I guess we'll start with the first half, and then we'll play from there.
Okay. Well, obviously Ryan started the thing in 2012, and he just threw out the idea of doing this 24-hour movie marathon event. And that's what intrigued me about it the most, was to be an event, a YouTube community thing where everyone or anyone who wanted to would get involved and watch films for 24 hours and record their kind of experience. As he said in that first video, you know, what you're eating, what you're drinking, you know, how you're staying awake, how you're going to plan the films to kind of cater to, you know, staying awake. I think he started his first 24-hour movie marathon with like a 5-hour movie because he wanted to get out of the way first. And he also introduced the guidelines, you know, which you don't have to follow, but they're there if you want to challenge yourself. Like, watch a film that you have no interest in seeing. I remember that was one of the first guidelines. I think I watched Land of the Lost with Will Ferrell. Yeah, watch a 3-hour movie. You know, watch a foreign movie, things like that. So I watched Battle Royale, and so I made the video, and I really enjoyed the experience of doing it that first year in 2012. And I tried to get a bit of everything in terms of a movie watcher. So I watched films in my bedroom on my 42-inch TV, whatever it was, and then I went to have a bath and brought my laptop with me and watched half of a film in the bath. And then I went to the cinema because I felt like I needed a cinematic experience to go along with it. On the bus to the cinema, I watched the film on my little MP3 player on a one-inch screen. So it was really cool to kind of do all that. But I did sleep for like 6 hours. I couldn't go the full hog. I think if I'd come to it a few years earlier, I would have just powered through that 24 hours. But I love sleep too much. So that initial video that I made the first year was about 25 minutes long, and I thought that it was too long, that I split it into 2 parts. This is before I became quite as liberal with the lengths of my videos.
Little did we know, right?
Yeah, and I included, I think, one little skit, we'll call it, where I walk into the kitchen. No, 2 skits. I walk into the kitchen at the end of the first night, pull a can of Red Bull out of the fridge because I'm tired. That was it. Just a little insert, basically. And then I did something else at the end. And so it was just this little, again, my filmmaking love for whatever it's worth, just creeping into something like that. And it was fun, and I enjoyed doing it. And then the second year was when it really kicked off and became something a bit bigger, I think. And it just kind of grew into something much like, I don't know how much you want me to go into detail on it. I don't want to ramble on for too long.
No, please. We have Roger in the chat, so if anything, you'll be second place to him. There's no way you can outdo him. By all means, just run amok.
That is true. Yeah, I did enjoy that. The first interview, I watched that a few weeks ago, actually. Anyway, the marathon, the second one, I'd moved here to Norway. I don't think that really impacted anything, but it just grew into something. Like every film I talked about a little bit longer, and as I went along, I wanted to add movie references, just little lines here and there, and it just happened. Like I didn't say, right, tomorrow I'm going to do like this skit to start it off. I just woke up and went, all right, set the camera up, and it became, I think, 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I was like, oh. Shit. But the way that I wasn't really going to cut it down because, you know, I just like to use everything that's usable. And the thing with me, a lot of my videos, I kind of think of fourth dimensionally. I think of the future. I think of being 40, 50 and going back and watching it just to go, oh, that was interesting when I was a lot younger. So I leave a lot of stuff in. That's why these videos get so fucking long. Because I'm like, well, that little moment there was quite funny. To me only.
You Peter Jackson it.
Right. Yeah. And so I you know, exert my right to kind of make it a big ego stroke and just leave it as long as possible. And yeah, so I posted it and thought, ugh, and it kind of blew up a bit and got a couple of thousand views, and people were saying that was great, that's the best video you've done. And I was like, really? People were interested in that for that long? And so that's where, and I had Ryan involved in that. That was the first time I had a cameo. So I got someone else to come in. That was Ryan who made the thing. So we had a little phone call sequence where I speak to him, he speaks to me, and it was really cool. And it kind of grew. And then as the years went on, the videos got longer and longer and longer, and the cameo lists got longer and longer and longer. And
what's funny is I think with each year, if you add up the previous year to the year before, it still doesn't equal the total time of the next. Like 1 and 2 don't add up to 3. 2 and 3 don't add up to 4. Sorry.
Pretty much, yeah. I think 3 and 4 would be longer than 5, but yeah,
Oh,
the first couple, yeah, that definitely follows that. Yeah, so I like it. It's I've talked about it to death on my channel, of course, but it's definitely the staple of my channel, I think. And I like that there's an event that people can kind of look forward to a little bit. You know, I just had someone comment saying they're looking forward to me doing another one, and that was cool. It's nice when people are interested in the things that you're doing. You know,
absolutely.
So that's always a nice thing. But,
so I certainly could be wrong, and if I am, straighten me out. But am I right or incorrect in presuming that you were the first person to really give that skit treatment to it, that not vlog, you know, the, like you said, the ego stroke, the simulated reality, I guess is what I'll call it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I just go to skits. You know, it's
Yes.
like a sketch from a comedy show or something.
Sure.
Not to imply that I'm funny, but that's kind of the goal of it, is to have a bit of fun. And usually it's kind of framed around a movie reference or something like that.
Right.
And as the years went on, framed around getting other people involved in some way. And usually it's by calling them, but I like to try and be a bit more outside the box as well. Yeah, I definitely probably started that with the 24-hour movie marathon. I mean, there hasn't really been that many people in the grand scheme of things who've even done it, so it's not a big kind of thing to claim, I don't think. But well, it's nice to see other people do that. Like Ryan has done things like that than you did, and Skinslip did a very elaborate one last year. So it's really cool to see other people kind of making it their own in that sense and doing something different with it.
Well, how does it make you feel that there's people emulating your style, so to speak, in, you know, adding these skits and these fun little things that just aren't a part of the marathon themselves, that, you know, there's these little fun. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I guess the skeleton of the video, well, it could be either way. The skeleton of the video is the vlogging of the marathon, and then the meat and the bones is the meat on the bones is the skits. Or you could flip it around depending on which you like the most. You know, some people come for the fun stuff, some people come for the just talking about the movie. So I guess that's what it should be about, really, is just recording the experience of watching loads of films over a very short period of time. But you know, if people have taken inspiration from the way I do it and use that in their video, then that's really, you know, cool and gratifying, obviously. But at the same time, I'm just such a big fan of it. I really enjoy it, even if it's someone just sitting there talking about it. I like it, but it's always cool when someone goes that extra mile and does something more cool with it as well. I don't think either one kind of cancels each other out. I like both, but of course it's always fun to see a bit more kind of salt and pepper on the steak, so to speak. So,
well, how does it make you feel knowing that and unfortunately, I'll say this on Ryan's behalf, unfortunately, for his sake, a lot of people associate your video with that marathon. That, okay, either it be, all right, the marathon doesn't really start until we get Luke's video. It's not really that big a deal unless Luke's doing something. How do you feel being the unofficial mascot of this thing?
I don't know if I feel that to be the case, really. Like those are phrases I would have never have heard. So
I'll say it as an outsider from
okay.
Situation that I've heard. It's not just me that thinks that or who has heard it. I've heard it from other people that, you know, you're the spoon that stirs the pudding.
I think that's fine. You know, I certainly think that I've put the work in to earn that kind of a distinction.
Sure.
But at the same time, you know, it's always in association with Ryan Chatway. I always like to heavily credit him as being the originator of all this. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you know, I think that's an important thing to refer. I mean, he's in all my videos anyway, the marathons, but
Mm-hmm.
that's always there in the opening credits and stuff. So what frustrates me sometimes is when I'll see someone's done the 24-hour movie marathon and they
And don't
don't
give
know,
him the credit.
they don't give him the credit, and they don't
Right.
know, they haven't seen my videos either. And I guess that's fine. Maybe they picked it from somewhere, but you can tell they're using the rules that Ryan
Yes.
said. Like
Yes.
they're the rule. You know what I mean? It's
I
like,
know exactly what you're talking about.
all
Yes.
right, yeah, you've probably seen the same one I have, but yeah. But I mean, it doesn't really matter either. But it's nice to kind of you know, give that little credit there. But
Does it play into anything at all? Like, do you ever, when you're planning stuff, do you ever think, all right, well, I really, I gotta show myself up from last year?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Each year, I mean, the second year there was no pressure because it was the first time I did something of that scale. The third year, I thought, well, how do I top that? Because people loved it so much, and then
Mm-hmm.
I seemed to pull it off. And then the fourth year, I feel like it went down a bit. I definitely feel like I kind of failed in a lot of aspects in the fourth one. People still enjoyed it, and that was cool. But I tried to learn from that, and then in the fifth one, I think I just went so far overboard with that one that I feel like it's going to be hard to kind of top it this year. So I definitely feel the pressure of it. I'll put it that way. I do feel like if I just put out a bare bones video, it would be a disappointment to people. But that's not to say that I feel like I'm forced to do that because I enjoy doing it anyway. You know.
But you are thinking, you're not, so while we're in the pre-production phase of six, well, six for you,
Yeah.
um, you are aware and conscious of the fact that, all right, uh, people are expecting this. You're not making the video for you. You're actually, you're doing this marathon with the goal of entertaining people,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
which is quite impressive. And I mean, the thing is supposed to be a fun little event for people who take part. I don't. It may sound like a backhanded compliment, and it's really not. I don't want to compliment you at all. So it may seem like the fact that uh, this marathon is supposed to be for people to, enjoy the movie watching experience over the course of 24 hours, or
Mm.
however the people do the process. But you're thinking of it as a fun way to entertain people,
Yeah.
and the marathon just happens to be something that means to an end, so to speak.
Kind of yes and no. I mean, the most fun to me is just doing it. And now that, I mean, over the first 3 years, my fiance got more involved, and now we do all of it together, and that's a special thing to me as well as doing it with her.
Mhm.
And I think we're conscious of that as well in terms of the entertainment value, because our normal reviews are a little bit more reserved. When we're doing the marathon, we have a bit more fun with it, a bit more loose, you know, and you know, we try to make it a bit more viewable, knowing that people might be watching this for hours on end, considering they do get hours long. And so I coined the term of vlogumentary because it's vlogging and it's documenting it, and it has other stuff as well. You know, that's the only term I can kind of box it into. But yeah, I'm conscious of the expectations of it, but at the same time, I'm going to try moving forward to lower the bar a little bit, because I definitely feel like last year was just so over the top in many ways, in terms of the people who appeared in the video, the amount of people who appeared in the video, and how long it was, and how elaborate some of the stuff was.
Well, your video last year is easily the best out of all of the 24-hour marathons.
Well, thank you. It's tough because it's a very long video, and I always get that, well, people aren't going to watch it, and then they watch it, and so people expect it longer and longer every year, and so far I've delivered on that. But this year is definitely going to be shorter, and so I'm hoping that people still enjoy that and still don't feel shortchanged by that, and then
Mm.
hopefully I can kind of move that forward, because I want to keep doing this for a long time. So yeah, it's not something I want to stop doing whatsoever.
Yeah. So Jason in the chat, he says, here's a challenge: 24-hour trauma challenge. if I would have any brain cells left, I would do that. I did that. Trauma challenge, 24 hours of trauma. That'd be a chore, all right. um, so what is your favorite moment from the marathons that you've done? Whether it be, you know, a cameo or what is the favorite thing that you've done over the course of the last 5 years?
I'll give you three moments, and one's the clear favorite, I think. One is Mick Foley in last year's video. Because I mean, you know, someone who I grew up kind of idolizing from a wrestling standpoint, and then later on from an entertaining standpoint, to have him in one of my videos, and I literally wrote the script. You know, he read it word for word. I mean, that's kind of gave me a little tingle, like I directed Mick Foley, like secondhand. You know, I never spoke to him about it, but through another party, you know, that was cool. The opening of last year's The Force Awakens kind of homage we did, just because it was something that I'd envisioned about a few days after I saw The Force Awakens, and it was like a 4-month process and all that kind of stuff. I put so much time into it, and it seemed to pay off. I was really happy with the results. So, but my favorite moment was probably in the third one. I can't remember when it was. I think it was somewhere in the middle, where we're both tired. Me and Connie, we watched this film, and for some reason she decided to take a water bottle and try to pour some water over my head, and I'm like, "What? You know, what are you doing?" You know. And we just get into a little tiff about it, and it's playful and whatever. And then eventually she tips it over my head, and I just can't believe it. And she's pissing herself laughing. And it's just one of those spontaneous things that wasn't planned. And a lot of people said was their favorite moment of the video. And, you know, just having fun with your partner like that, I just think, and just to capture it so spontaneously, that's probably if I could just like, if someone said you can only have one moment to watch again, I go, I'll look at that one again, I think. So. Despite all the planning and all the editing and all the cameos, which have been great, I think that's the one that stands out, I suppose. But there's loads of great moments I enjoy.
That's really sweet. That's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
So you and I had plans for my end this year that, you know, it still might happen. There's a 0.5% chance we pull it off, but I don't think it's going to be able to happen. With that said, are there any things that you had an idea to do that you weren't able to do that maybe you're you know, regretting or second guessing, like, oh man, if I only had the budget for a crane, we could have really done. Is there anything that you ever wanted to do in one of those marathons and didn't, and could share what would have happened now?
Well, there's a few things. The end of which one was it? There was an ending. The end of last year was meant to be something completely different, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because it will likely play into the ending of this year's one. Okay. But there was a much different idea for the ending last year, and I kind of wish that I'd done it last year and then switch the endings over if I could go back. Another one was the fourth marathon, which prime for Rocky IV references. You know, we all love Rocky IV in different ways, and I live in a place that has a lot of snow around. And I didn't have the foresight to film some kind of snowy training montage while the snow was still here. And so what we ended up doing was me running down this road, and then the camera zooms to the snowy mountains in the distance, which was the roughest approximation I could get. And then I just edited in Rocky IV movie footage. So I was very disappointed with how that turned out. And even in that intro, I reference how, I just had so much better ideas for this. So like I said, I think 4 is a low point for it. And I'm sure there's something else as well, but I can't quite think off the top of my head. But it hasn't really been anything big. Well, I suppose the Force Awakens thing we did last year almost didn't happen completely, because the first day we went out to film it, it was just snowing horribly. The snow was like this deep. It was freezing. We were both pissed off. There was no way we could do it, and we just went home, and it was just so depressed. I've been planning this for so long, and I thought, that's it. I'm just gonna have to scrap it, you know. But cooler heads prevailed, and we went back another day and managed to get it. So that almost didn't happen, but I'm glad that we stuck to our guns on it. Or I stuck to my guns on it, I should say, because I dragged her up there to do it. There's certainly no part of Connie that wanted to go and do that. But
well, you kind of, it's a good thing to expand on. Me now having somebody to bounce ideas off of, and it last year when I did my marathon, it was just me. Any sort of idea I had, it was me, a tripod, that's it. But now, Dennis, we've had some fun. We emulated Godfather 2. You're right there.
Yeah, my engagement ring just fell off. I think it was
Is that a sign?
yeah.
So yeah, having somebody else to help with certain stuff,
Big help.
Yeah, big help. So has Connie ever voiced any sort of displeasure, second guessed you at all? Has there ever been, well, you kind of touched on it, but has there ever been something where she's like, do we really have to do this? Like, honestly, I don't.
Well, yes and no. There's certainly a part of her that doesn't want to do it because she would rather spend her day off doing nothing, which is completely fine, especially considering that she does so much outside of her time off. But I like to think that she enjoys helping me do that stuff as well once it's over with. And as far as actually filming it and stuff, she's pretty much on board with everything I do. When we did the Force Awakens scene, there was a few moments where she was like, well, you probably should place the camera a little bit differently there. So we had a bit of a...
That's awesome.
Yeah. She was like, well, the eye line is not going to be... And I'm like, I don't care about the eye line. We just got to get this filmed.
That's awesome.
So yeah, in that moment, she kind of took over a bit, which is probably for the best, I think. But it's so great to have her there to film those things where you can't quite do it on your own. There's only so much I can go out into the woods with a tripod and do,
Does it influence your creativity at all, knowing that you have somebody else?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it gives me the kick to be more imaginative with what I could do with things like that. So I could do this, I could do that. I'd need the camera moving, so I'd need someone else. But Connie's there, and I'm sure I could rope her into doing it on one day. So it's it's cool. I mean, you always want more. Like when I was a kid, I mean, it was always a struggle like to get anyone to help and to be in the films and all that kind of stuff. So I've always struggled with that, really. But yeah, I'm very thankful that she's into it and is not like oh, I don't want to be in front of the camera or whatever, which is fine for some people. But it's great that she is game for that kind of stuff. And she always has been. So
I guess a kind of a reverse question of the way you've influenced everybody and kind of turned everybody on to I mean, the Chataway marathons alone, I think I can name a handful of people that are now officially doing skits and stuff, and I won't hold anything. 100% of what I'm doing is completely inspired by you. Do you in turn see something that somebody else is doing and think, oh wow, that's a neat idea. I should like Justin, he last year he had this neat, like he was putting like movie theater commercials.
Yeah.
So I mean that's just one thing that I was like, oh, that's really neat. That's just an example. Is there anything?
I really like that. It was a cool little difference, and again, his was primarily just sitting there talking about the films as he watched them, and then he added those little things and it made it a bit more interesting, and I really like that.
Oh, Stoudman for those at home, sorry.
Stoudman, yeah. Right. And while I wouldn't have, if I had the idea myself, I definitely would have implemented it, but I don't think I would use that because I feel like that's something that he kind of, I'm not saying people shouldn't, but one thing I can say to that is the whole phone call thing, which is a staple of all my marathons now. That came from, I don't know who did it actually. It was either Aficionados Chris, who I don't watch anymore, but he used to make a lot of movie-related videos. And there was a skit with him and Zaran Isaac. And it was like, he called Zaran Isaac and said, oh, I've got this package. What should I do? And he's like, well, unbox it, you fucking idiot. He's like, okay then. And that was it. And I thought, genius. It's simple, but just get other YouTubers, pick up the phone and you can kind of play off each other and stuff. And that's completely where I got the inspiration to do a phone call sequence in the second marathon, and then it just went to ridiculous levels in the later marathons where I'm calling like 20 different people.
Oh, well, I mean, it is. It's the easiest thing to do. It's and you bridge the gap worldwide. It's it's just a
Yeah,
wide
yeah.
shot. It's not hard to understand. The person's in their house. We're looking at them on the phone, and
You don't need to match anything.
right, exactly. Um, uh, yeah. So do you, well, I guess I'm answering it in my head. Chill Pilgrim, you have a bit of a you kind of cheat a bit where he filmed something for you in the woods, and as opposed to the phone thing that you're talking about, you have a reaction shot where you're in the woods.
Mm.
Um, have you ever thought of doing more stuff like that where it's a bit more risky? Same thing with Ryan from the intro from last year.
Yep.
Technically, you guys are in the same scene, but there's no way you guys did that together. So
Hmm.
that I would call that difficult. Do you have any sights on something more like that, or?
Yeah, it's I got to kind of pick my spots with it, I think, but it's definitely something I'm conscious of. I want to kind of push myself more and not just go to the. I mean, I'm probably gonna do more phone call stuff because it's easy and nice to get people involved, and that's something I really love about the marathon is getting people involved in it, and kind of making it. It's a community event, and then getting part of the community in the video as well. And it's cool to see other people doing that and having cameos in their marathons. I love that stuff. But yeah, last year I really wanted to do something a bit different where me and Ryan would appear to be in the same room. And so
Mhm.
the idea we had was to be a completely dark room and just light ourselves by the face. And then I'd have to try and match it with, the editing. And that was probably the most extensive piece of editing I've done on any of the marathons, I think, was that scene. It was fucking ridiculously hard to put together. But yeah, it's I want to do more of that and kind of push it a little bit, push the boundaries of what isn't really there, but try and make it work anyway.
Mhm.
Which takes two to tango at the same time. So you got to have someone else who's willing to put the time in, which luckily Ryan was last year. So yeah.
Mhm. Um, and do you have anything? I guess anything that you can share with us about the upcoming.
There's I'm trying to learn from what I feel are mistakes that might not appear mistakes to other people in the previous marathons. I want to kind of fine tune it. It'll still be a few hours long, I think, but I want to have all the fun stuff, but to kind of just trim it a little bit. Just to. I feel like it's over long at this point. I know that people watch it in segments, so I mean, it's not like I say you need to watch the whole 6.5 hours in one go. People don't. Some people do, and they're crazy, which is great. And I feel bad when that happens. But I want to limit it down a bit to maybe a few hours, and to just kind of take everything that worked before and make it a little bit more snappy, I think, and
Mm.
not go too overboard. So even if people loved it, I'm still conscious of trying to make it better at the same time. And there is, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's been filmed since December. Part of the intro should be quite unique and different and interesting and a little bit special to me as well. And it's completely different than anything else you've seen in the marathon. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that works. It's something, again, that I hope plays. We'll see.
Well, each year, and even to some degree, year to year, you have a bit of a narrative that, like, sure, the marathon is a video about you watching 24 hours worth of movies, but you also have in the skits you have this little narrative. Like last year, you disappeared off YouTube. Um, what type of planning goes into the subplot? I guess the narrative of the
Subplot slash only plot.
yeah.
It's the half plot. We'll call it the half plot.
Okay.
Well, I don't think there was one in the third one. The fourth one just became its own. Again, it just seems to flow out of me, and then it's there, and then I try to kind of follow suit the next year and try and tag onto it, I suppose. So the fourth year is when I introduced this weird idea that I was going to sell all my movies and stuff. And then we had the little montage at the end, like an ode to the collector of Blu-rays,
Mhm.
seeing other people just looking lovingly at their movies. And then the fifth one, again, it was just to serve the Force Awakens thing, like, why would this be interesting for Connie to find me on a hill, standing there in a robe, if there wasn't some setup to it? And I think I've said in a video before that I almost contemplated in December 2015 after The Force Awakens came out. I thought, I'm just going to not make any videos for 4 months.
Oh my God, that's a pretty good sell.
Right, and I was really close to doing it, but I just love making videos so much, so I didn't end up doing that. So I just created the false narrative that I've been away for a year, and people saying, "Oh, he's been away for a year." So it was just a necessity to make that scene a bit more impactful. And I like the idea of the first 20 minutes of my video not having me in it, but also getting to give the spotlight to other people, because a couple of thousand people watch these videos every year, so I like to kind of again get people who aren't as big in the community to come on and make an appearance or whatever. Or people like Mick Foley who are a bit bigger than everyone in the community.
Right 4 or 5 times over.
But that was an exception.
So if you've watched as far back as I think 4, there's a Blu-ray that has quite a bit more stage time or screen time than anything else. Do you care to give us the backstory of the Jean-Claude Van Damme 2-pack?
Sure. Well, in the fourth, I don't want to. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I like to keep my secrets, but no.
Well, yeah, as thinly veiled as you can.
It's fine. It's fine. The story in the fourth one.
Keep it kayfabe.
I did a few not cameos. It was inserted segments of Jean-Claude Van Damme in the marathon, which is I think he held some contest a few years ago where there was all this green screen footage of him the editors could make into a short film and they'd win a prize or whatever. And technically, I don't think it was legal that I used them because there was like a cutoff point with whatever it was. But anyway, so I used it, and I thought, well, again, how can I tie into it somehow? So I ordered this Blu-ray of these 2 films from America, and just worked it into the plot. And I thought, and I'll watch the movies during the marathon, and then I never watched them. And then we did the ending of the fourth one where he kicks me out of our flat, and I land outside on the driveway, and the Blu-ray is just falling out of my hand. And then I just thought it would be fun to use it in the 5th one as some kind of device that doesn't really mean anything, but it's just it's this, and it's this, like I've said in the commentary that just went up a couple of days ago, the briefcase from Pulp Fiction. It's we've got no idea why, and it will never be explained. But maybe it will one day. Who knows? And who knows if we'll see it in the 6th one? But it's just kind of become a running joke, and it's still unopened from 2 years ago. So part of me wants to just see how many years I can string it out before I finally open that thing. But yeah, well, it is a fun little side character of its own in a way.
All right, so we'll wrap up the marathon here with this. What if people only associate your channel or the marathon with your channel, what would you hope people get from watching your marathon?
I would hope. I mean, I love a lot of YouTubers who, like I say, talk about films in a conversational manner. Just hanging out with them. Who I can catch up on 3-4 of their videos, and I've got an hour's worth of just listening to them talk about whatever. I would hope that would be the same kind of entertainment I could provide the people with the marathon videos, but with a little added extra something else as well to make it a more rounded experience. I mean, again, it's not perfect. It's just something that I'm kind of stitching together as I go along. But yeah, it's an alternative form of entertainment that I can't think of any other style of vlogging that kind of implements that kind of stuff in a feature. It's a weird thing, I mean, it may be out there, but I've not seen anything like it. And so I like that I have my own little niche, and I love that other people adapt it into their own form as well. I think Skin Slips was about an hour long, something like that. And so it was fun to see a shorter version, a more compact version of that with cameos. And he had this other bit where it was like narrating a poem or something, like, I like people pushing the box a little bit, or pushing the envelope, I should say. Right. And then yours, I really liked yours. I mean, I know you're down on the one you did last year, but I really enjoyed that video. Even at half an hour, I think it's really fun. The editing is great, and again, different. You don't have all of the pictures coming up on screen in other people's marathons, all like the details and things that you put into your regular videos. So it was cool to see you kind of take what you do in normal videos, like lists or whatever, and then transpose it into the marathon format and make it your own. And that's what I like to see.
Well, what it's not that I don't. It's not that I'm down on the video. Is the fact that I had so much stuff shot and my hard drive bricked, so I had to like recreate some stuff, and a lot of stuff was simulated reality, so to speak. And it's just, first of all, the time of my life was bleh. But
and I think it's precisely because of that I enjoy it even more. That it's still that good.
Knowing that I was miserable makes you happy. That's good.
No. Knowing that you were still able to put together something that was as entertaining and cohesive as that, even if you were simulating parts of it, I think it's a really nice flowing video that captures the marathon experience and is fun in its own way with the things that you do.
Thank you. Well,
I'm highly looking forward to your next installment.
Like I was just going to say, this year we dropped the gauntlet pretty hard. My trailer's already out there for this year.
Yeah.
And I have help this time, motherfucker. So other than the marathon and other than the Epic Film Challenge, what do you have planned? What do you are you doing? What else can people expect from your channel, whether it be right now or in the somewhat near future?
Well, I'm a Blu-ray collector, so there's always the fair amount of Blu-ray openings and things like that, and collection updates, which I'm doing less of, but that's always going to be a part of my channel, I think, because I love collecting movies, but specifically older movies, so keep that in mind too. There's not many new kind of Marvel titles in my updates, but I mean, it's mainly heavily geared towards the Epic Film Challenge right now. That's kind of my prime focus outside of the marathon, really. But I like to do movie vlogs, just casual, kind of just sitting down watching a movie, talking about it. Much more low maintenance kind of editing, just plonking it out there, and again, conversational stuff without too much importance on reviewing a film that's in the book or whatever. And yeah, I do my side projects. I do silent movie marathons for the more niche kind of, again, focusing on what I really love and doing it. Like, it's not quite as elaborate as the 24-hour movie marathon, but I still do a few things, So yeah, I do bits and pieces. But I kind of feel like in the next few years, I want to kind of get the Epic Film Challenge done, maybe move away from YouTube a little bit, and I mean, 5 years time, I could see it to a point where it's just a marathon I'm doing every year. I kind of feel like this is this is my goal right now, to get through this. But who knows? I'm certainly not kind of promising that. But whatever happens, it's the 24-hour movie marathon is the only thing I can foresee doing long term.
269 days.
Okay.
You don't want to talk about that at all?
What?
You have
see, these things can fly over my head, and it's because those videos are so intermittent. I do the Road to Episode 8 series, and I'll probably do Road to Episode 9 as well. So yeah, you've got regular videos till 2019 at least. Yeah, that started like 2012 or 2013. I was doing the build up to Episode 7 and just charting a fan's kind of anticipation, I suppose. And I'm doing the same thing with Episode 8. So I do just news and what I think about it, trailers, reactions, and then just, what do you think about this? And general Star Wars nerdiness that we all know and love from myself. Maybe not love in some cases. Maybe it's a bit grating and shot-worthy, but yeah.
Oh, Ryan joins us in the chat. Ryan says, I like marathon videos. Then he says, I like videos. I like turtles.
Okay.
I will always make YouTube videos. Ryan, you're my hero.
Ryan's okay. He's okay.
Yeah. So you grazed it, and I'm gonna kind of pull you into the fire again here.
All right.
You said that you're not really much of a Blu-ray collector. Same question about the YouTube community. I'm going to ask you about the Blue Tube community. What do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? What's kind of annoying?
Well, you kind of misquoted me there. I said that I'm not really a blue tuber.
Oh,
I'm definitely a Blu-ray collector. Don't get me wrong
oh,
about that. Like,
okay, okay, right.
holy shit, am I a collector? But
My apologies.
I don't find myself a blue tuber because my videos aren't primarily about Blu-rays. I mean, they were at one point. At one point, that was kind of the basis of the channel, but that's kind of secondary now, even lower, I suppose. But the BlueTube community, kind of moving away from it in some aspects. You know, less and less do I watch the kind of out and about shopping videos. You know, nothing against them. I'll only really watch an update if it's something interesting. There's a guy called A Touch of Film, doesn't have many subscribers, UK guy, and he only really does updates about the films that he buys and loves, which are Asian cinema. So he'll be talking about Japanese Criterions or films from Hong Kong, things like that. And I always watch those because those are the kinds of off the wall choices that I like to kind of hear about, films I've never heard of before. And so the latest Marvel Steelbook or whatever, while I'm still interested in that, isn't my go-to kind of video, I guess. But I mean, I don't feel like I'm ingratiated enough in the quote unquote BlueTube community to even have that much to say about it, I think. It kind of is what it is. And again, the only updates I watch are people who I really like and have interesting titles that I like hearing about, I think.
All right, so we're almost done here. If you're in the chat and you have a question for Luke, feel free to fire it away. Ryan says, I will always make YouTube videos, even if they are not 20 seconds. Ryan Chataway, of course, has a daily vlog channel. The last 2 weeks or so, you could add up all the videos and they probably total 1:12. Ryan, feel better, because seriously, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. I mean, for as much as people make fun of me about my teasers are 4 times as long as your daily vlog.
I want to see Ryan try and test out at least if you can upload a video that's shorter than a second. 17 frames, yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah, click on it and it's already gone. Yeah, so what do you have an idea of when about your marathon will be?
That's the frustrating thing. It would be today last year that we started the marathon. So I want to get going, but we have to work the time around a little bit different this year. So April sometime we'll do the marathon. And I don't know. I'd say I'd probably shoot for like a late May posting of it, something like that, probably.
Okay. So I might beat you to the punch on
may very well beat me to the punch, yeah. Not that there's punches should be beaten to. It's it's all good. Again, I love the marathon. I really do. It's the only exception of when I wasn't interested in watching someone's marathon video was this guy who streamed his whole thing.
Oh, wow.
It was just hours of him just sitting there, just looking at his laptop. And it's like, well, not so much.
Okay, Roger's got a question. Since you love silent films, what do you think of, have you seen any George Melies, any favorites?
George Méliès, yes. I mean, you've seen Hugo, right? Scorsese?
Yes.
The character who Ben Kingsley plays in that is George Méliès. I mean, obviously, A Trip to the Moon is great for what it is, but I really like some of his more shorter films. There's the Four Troublesome Heads, where he sits down and he's playing the banjo, and he takes his head off and puts it on the table next to him. He takes it off again, puts it down. There's 3 of his heads all singing along as he's playing the banjo, and it's just it's a wonderful little minute-long short that I really love watching.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is like 18 something, 18, 19, something like that.
A Trip to the Moon, that's that famous thing, right? With
that famous thing.
Well, yeah, I know it gets emulated all the time. I know Smashing Pumpkins kind of had the Tonight video, basically was a big tribute to that.
Well, we got it here. It's page 1 on page 1, but movie number 1 on the book.
Wow, that's incredible. So Ryan says, ha 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 ha. and then he says his marathon goal is in 2 weeks. Ryan, is that you're going to have your marathon in 2 weeks, or you're going to have the video up in 2 weeks? So now we wait because the delay will kick in.
Yeah, I want to see more of George Melior's stuff. I know there's some DVD in America. There's like hundreds of them, but hundreds of his films were lost as well, sadly. But you know, anything I get my hands on whatsoever, as far as he's concerned.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I can't. I don't know about you, but due to the shipping and the taxes here, like I just can't get my hands on any imports like whatsoever from America, at least, because yeah, they have that weird tax on I don't know what it is. I just call it a Denmark tax. If it's coming from America and it's from commerce, Denmark wants to charge me twice as much. So yeah, it's hard to import, or at least for me. I don't know if you have that same trope. Yeah. Well, yeah, I would assume so, right?
Yeah, Norway has a toll. It's 350 krona, I think. Anything over that, and it's toll tax.
Oh, gross.
Now.
It's so silly. Like they just we're all connected. Like the internet makes the world so much smaller. Like you would think at this stage, like it wouldn't be that hard to get things to each other. I mean, Don W. Load should be able to help people out when it comes to movies and stuff.
That's where you need to get a guy.
Yeah, a guy. It's late enough in the stream. I don't think anybody's gonna see that. Don't repeat that. So Ryan, Ryan, I don't, maybe Ryan's gone or whatever. So
he's just checking in.
So what? Before we go, Luke, what do you have planned in the near future? Anything you want to? Oh! I see. This casual relationship we have has ruined my normal interview style. Lastly, a question I always finish my interviews with is if you were to explain your channel to somebody new, who would you say would like Razorwire Reviews?
Someone who likes hearing about movies in a non-professional way, in a conversational manner, from someone who knows a little bit what they're talking about, but who is still finding their own way and talks about things a little bit outside of the box.
Oh, that's nice and tight. Oh. And what do you have upcoming in the immediate future that people can check out, or something that you've recently released that people can check out?
I quite like the video I put up last night, or at least I enjoyed doing it. Yesterday was the 100th anniversary. Again, back to silent films. It's 100th anniversary of Buster Keaton for stepping in front of a camera. So I watched that film and that scene, and for the first time. So I put up a little vlog of that, and I enjoyed that. I put some clips of the movie in as well to kind of paint the picture. But otherwise, the Epic Film Challenge rolls on. I got some cool ones coming up that I'm looking forward to posting. Me and Connie tackled the ever controversial and talked about Avatar in episode 150, and we had a lot to say about it. I might have to cut down some of the ranting from both of us. And then we're going to cover Sherlock Jr., in which you will be making an appearance as well.
I know that guy. Oh, it's me.
I'm looking forward to. It's nice to get people involved in that as well every now and again. So yeah, a couple of cool movie reviews coming up, and you know, the usual stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And your marathon should be somewhere April, May probably.
Yeah, at least May is for the video coming out. Yeah.
Okay. And anywhere else that people could find you if you want them to know? Twitter, Instagram, any of that stuff? You don't have to.
No, not really. If you check out my channel, Razorwire Reviews, in the description of every video is all the links. You know, Twitter and Instagram and stuff. And
Okie.
Yeah.
All right. So so that's it, guys. You had time. Ryan was so chatty until I told him to say something, and then he shut up. So Luke, thank you so much for being here. His channel is Razorwire Reviews. Go ahead and say goodbye, Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was interesting to talk to you in a more formal sense than usual, but
I tried. I really tried. I swear.
and I appreciate the kind words as well. So thanks, and yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, go at the very least, go check out one of the marathons, and maybe pace yourself if it's too long. But
Right, yeah.
you owe it to yourself sincerely. It's somebody who really busting his ass for free. You're getting free content, and it's just better than 99% of what's out there.
Well, thanks.
Well, for Luke, I am CP. Have a day.